I'm Logan Webb, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the three-time world champion, San Francisco Giants. With hosts Chad King and Eric Nathanson. This is TortureCast.
It's Friday, October 7th, 2022, and this is episode 266 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of your mediocre 500 San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and we got the full allotment today. Eric Nathanson, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Watching Rays Indians. I said it right away. I totally screwed it up. Watching Rays Guardians to start off the day, and I'm just settling in. I'm excited for 4 games of baseball 2 days in a row, no matter what. It's awesome.
I remember when we used to write checks. Like, I don't do that much anymore, except a couple of bills here and there. And I always still write the previous year for like the first 6 months of the year. That's what you just did. It's no big deal. I understand. You know, Indians have been around.
It's like
forever.
in school when the year changes. You come back after winter break. You keep forgetting to date your papers with 04 or whatever. Well, I was in school.
Old fogey stuck in the past. Speaking of old fogey, well, not as old as I am, but Willie, OG, how you doing, man?
I'm the youngest member of this podcast.
What? No.
Yeah.
Damn, I thought it was me.
No, I'm younger than you, Eric. How old are you?
43?
Yeah, I'm 42.
Oh.
Chad
by a nose.
The other day too. He was like, yeah, you know, Eric always has those young guy takes, and then I always have the old fart takes, and then you're right in the middle. And I was like, hold on a second, I'm the youngest person here. I think I also do have the young guy takes. I'm the one who embraced the second the runner on second and the extra innings, and I'm like, hey, speed it up, old man, let's go,
baby.
I got Fortnite to play over here.
I'm the middle child.
You started the podcast, and I've known you longer, so sometimes that just happens. So
I am the old fart when it comes to being on this podcast because I was on episode 1, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are here to kind of, talk about, look at the post-mortem and do the autopsy on the 2022 season. And as I just mentioned, the Giants.
Oh, here's your problem right here.
Let's cut it open. Let's weigh all the organs. You guys were missing stuff. You didn't have a left hand and half a brain.
See this? Usually this is a bullpen. You just don't have that. I don't know how you were alive.
How did you last as long as you did? Oh, man. It was remarkable is that they did finish 81-81 after an 8-1 win, so there's some symmetry in that. They also kind of set... well, I wouldn't say records, but they had win totals the last 3 years that they've never had before, which is really odd. So you had 81-81. They've never finished at 500 in their 140 years. Last year, of course, they set the record for most wins in franchise history with 107. And then the previous year, they had never won 29 games in a season before because it was shortened due to the pandemic. So very odd numbers that the Giants are flicking out here. But they, hey, look, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, Eric and I were talking, and I admit, he was the more positive one, but they hadn't had a winning month since April, and so they had to go 12-4 to finish it at 500. And I was like, not a chance in hell. It's exactly what they did. They went 12-4. So Eric was his optimism actually was
it's not my optimism. It's the Rockies and the Diamondbacks.
Well, that had something to do with it. Yeah, because then they play the Padres, and they're resting everyone, and they still lost 2 out of 3.
Well, I mean, at that point, it's
couldn't take 2 out of 3, finish over.
I know! It would have been nice if they could have taken 2 out of 3. We were running
at the quadruple A lineup, though, for all of those games. Shut down Webb, shut down Rodon.
Can we talk about that real quick? So, Webb, they had already discussed it with him, and I guess functionally it's no different than shutting down Rodon. I get it. It's the way Rodon was shut down. It was freaking Scott Boras who basically came out and publicly stated, he's hit 180 innings, so he hit his innings threshold. So, yeah, we're probably going to shut him down. I'm like, God, I hate it when the agents get involved like that. You know what I mean?
Should not have any say in it. You're right. But unfortunately, at this point, baseball's not just played between the lines. It's a business. So
that was a shame because, maybe it would have given him a shot at 2 out of 3. But more importantly than that, I mean, he could have gotten the NLK record. But, hey, he didn't care, or Boris didn't care about it. They know he's going to get paid in the offseason.
How many did he end up with? It was like 220 something.
Yeah, I don't have the number in front of me.
Still solid as hell.
Freaking amazing season for him. So,
by the way, I don't know if you guys saw. There's the Nolan Ryan documentary on Netflix right now.
No, I haven't seen it.
It just makes you realize like how sick that person was. When you look at the numbers he was putting up, and now we're like, oh my god, 220 strikeouts. That's crazy.
Yeah, there were 300K guys. Yeah,
year. Yeah,
I know. It's
237 Rodon, 243 for Burns.
Okay. Yeah, so 6K.
Yeah, he would have got there.
He would. If he had a 5-inning outing, he would have gotten there. Yeah, that's too bad. But hey, look,
I set a record for Giants 10K games. So that's not something we expected either. He's going to get paid.
By the way, off the top of your head, without Googling, who has the Giants record for strikeouts?
Shoot.
Good question.
Carl Hubble?
That's a pretty good guess.
Mathewson?
It's Mathewson, yeah.
Damn.
Isn't that nuts?
That made some more sense.
I mean, it's like 278 or something like that. It's a pretty good number, but it is true though that guy used to pitch like.
Well, it's the volume.
Whatever.
Yeah.
60 full. Yeah. Like he used to pitch a complete game. Like.
They started like 50 games a year. Like it was stupid, and just pitched 9-10 innings. Like whatever. It's normal.
Nah, we're just soft nowadays. I don't understand why Rodon's not out there every 2-3 days. Come on, we're soft. I like it back in the day, the way the baseball used to be played. Yeah. Not that far.
Those guys were so much more in shape than. No. Not like that these days, guys. And speaking of which, I didn't put this in the show notes, but I figured it was worth mentioning. Aaron Judge did set the American League record for 62, so we can finally stop hearing from Roger Maris Jr. That was really getting annoying overall. But I could the Twitterverse and the social media just blew up again with like who they think is the true home run champ, and it was just entertaining to read takes on both sides. I mean, I know where all three of us stand. But it's quite entertaining, nonetheless, because even journalists are getting into these matches online, and it's just fun to watch. Where it's like some people are like, "Well, the cheaters shouldn't have the record; we should just remove them," and then other people say, "Well, okay, the New York Yankees had a bunch of cheaters on their teams, and they won, 3 World Series in a row. We should take away their titles." Like you start going down that slippery slope, and it provides for an interesting conversation. But the reality is, baseball endorsed. Turned the blind eye during the steroid era. They loved it because of the publicity that it generated and the media they were getting and the money that they were making. And so, those are still records, guys. 73 is the record. So, and you could think differently. That's fine, but it's still there.
Guess my argument against people, and I had a Twitter rant about this because I was like getting a little sick of hearing it from people, but my argument is I think Bonds had a tougher time of anybody to get to the number he did because he also, at the time, was breaking records for walks every single year. So he wasn't even getting at-bats. It didn't matter if he was in the lineup or not. He wasn't even seeing pitches. So is it harder to have a little bit of juice in your blood, or is it harder to not even be able to have a ball pitched over the plate? Because even though Judge was having a historic season, and people were getting mad that he was getting walked. I mean, he was hitting great. He wasn't getting walked at the same clip. He wasn't just getting like, all right, just put him on. Bonds would come up in like a 1-run game, and they're like, we're just walking with nobody on. Like it was like crazy. Judge was still getting pitches, and I was watching those at bats. Like that was not what was happening that 73 home run season.
111 walks. That's it for Judge. Can you imagine? Barry was like double that.
Yeah. And not to take anything away from Judge, but that's another thing about baseball is that it's very different. We're not – people don't steal bases. People don't intentionally walk people anymore. People don't bunt. People don't do any of this stuff anymore, It's basically like look, we're going to position our fielders this way, and we're going to pitch you this way, and we're just going to see what the outcome is. And that's just kind of how baseball is played, which is one of the reasons people are saying that it's getting boring, is because it has become this there's not a lot going on outside of the hitter battle.
No, most results are strikeout, home run, and that's about it. Or walk.
66 walks. That's the difference. Bonds walked 177 times in 2001, and Judge only walked 111 times this season. But your point's fair. Bonds was doing it by only hitting one pitch a game that he could see. And, you got to think about it. 9/11 threw a curveball in the middle of that.
That's true. That was that year. Yeah.
Right. That's what forced the tying home runs to suddenly be in Houston, and then the leading home run to suddenly be at home against LA. They weren't supposed to finish the season at home against LA, much like this year. Yeah. A week got moved, and so it kind of made a little bit of difference. Everything went on pause. I mean, the pitchers were roided up, the hitters were roided up. It's just the era. Back in the 60s, the hitters were greenied up, the pitchers were greenied up. Back in the 40s or 30s, the pitchers were boozed up, the hitters were boozed up. It's the same thing. Like, it's just always whatever the current thing is. And
Babe Ruth didn't have to play against black people, and we can put an asterisk next to everything if we really want to.
That's the problem. It's that gray area. It's like once you start ripping out, records, then
at a certain point, I'm just kind of sick of it, and I'm just like, look, guys, can we just watch baseball, please? Like,
right. That's exactly it.
Like, look, these are the circumstances of today. And they're completely different than the circumstances of this decade and this decade and this decade. Like, baseball has changed dramatically, literally, like, decade to decade. If you watch, like, I can watch like a highlight and be like, oh, that's the 70s. Oh, that's the 50s. Oh, that's the, you know what I mean? Like, because every single era is just a different look, different style. Baseball just changes so much, and it's kind of beautiful. I love that about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to change next year with the shift and not being able to be out of the infield and not being able to cross second base. I think we're going to see a completely different game next year in that sense. So, like you say, it's ever evolving. We might be entering a new era that we're going to remember at this point.
And by the way, I don't want to take anything from Judge, because it was incredible what he did. And,
just screw Roger Maris Jr.
Pretty cool.
Well, and he grew up a Giants fan, of course. We talked about his favorite player being Rich Aurelian, and that's why he wore number 35. But he obviously followed Bonds. And, of course, they asked him multiple times, who do you think is the true home run champion? He's like, Bonds? That's it.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I watched it.
Like, Judge himself is like, yeah, it's Barry Bonds. Like, so.
By the way, anecdote about that, the 2001 season, my band went on tour for like 2 months during that whole thing. And I was so stoked that it was happening, because Giants baseball was on in every city I was in. It was great.
Oh, yeah, they're all watching it, yeah.
You're right, because I got to watch it all.
Every freaking night. I could watch the actual Giants game. And it was,
You're right, because I got to in Chicago as well. You're totally right. I remember
that. Barry Bonds getting the home runs, but I was like, dude, I just get to watch the game. This is crazy. I show up at some bar in Wisconsin or something. The Giants game is on.
They got eliminated the night he broke the record. That it played like a 12-10 game or some crap like that with LA that lasted like 4.5 hours. I remember, because I was traveling the next morning. I was supposed to fly a few days earlier, but that obviously didn't happen.
I mean, none of it mattered. The Yankees were supposed to win the World Series that year, right? So,
yeah.
They were supposed to. Yeah, that was the year that was, Pedro Gomez. I know he just recently passed away, but he was always on ESPN. He followed Barry Bonds around, always reporting on the home run chase. So that was quite the memorable year. But all right, back to the Giants. So look, 81 and 81, 500 is considered mediocre, right? Right in the middle of the pack. So part of that autopsy we were talking about, yes, they were missing a bullpen. We opened up the body, we didn't find a bullpen. Or we found a shriveled up appendix of a bullpen, I think. There was something representing what used to be a bullpen in there. But yeah, let's look at the basic stats. I mean, that kind of bear out. We'll start with that bullpen, because that was the most dramatic change. In 2021, they led all of Major League Baseball with a reliever staff ERA of 2.99. This year was 4.08, good for 20th in Major League Baseball. And they actually shored that up towards the end of the season. It was actually worse before September. So, I mean, that was a huge problem, and it just kept rearing its ugly head all year long. It was just unbelievable. Starters ERA, that was their strength again this year. 3.68. Last year was 3.44. This year was 7th. Last year was 3rd in Major League Baseball. So again, near the top. And actually, this year's field independent pitching was number 1 in baseball. I thought that was interesting. And James Heinz on social or on Facebook actually brought it up as well. Don't forget the defense. And that's part of that equation, why the field independent pitching was number 1, because they could not rely on their defense as much. And so, it was frustrating to watch, but the defense really sank this year. It just wasn't what it used to be. And then overall team ERA was 13th right in the middle of the pack. What'd you say?
Longo, Farhan just said in his press conference that they're going to probably bring Longo back.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, and as we speak,
we'll have half a season of Longo. Got it.
Well, I mean, I thought Villar really turned it on, with all his home runs and stuff. We'll get to him, So I'm a little surprised that they're gonna. But apparently, Farhan said there's a place for Evan Longoria on our team next year. So,
well, doesn't he have an option?
Yes.
Yeah.
So technically,
it's their option, not his.
Do is not exercise the option and figure out some new deal that makes more sense.
Well, his Longo's agent already came out and said we're willing to renegotiate a deal. So they basically already said, if the Giants don't want to pay us that much for the option, we'll take something less. Because
Longo is worth it, but not for a superstar style salary, which is what he kind of got when we got him. He was one of the best third basemen in baseball, right?
Yeah.
That is no longer the case. And,
but Chad mentioning defense made me think of it because he's still pretty decent defensively for a third baseman. He's got enough range, So that totally made me think of it, Chad. I didn't mean to interrupt that.
No.
To me, he's a good presence in the dugout and everything too. The problem is that he just can't stay on the field for very long. So you can't pay him like a guy's going to play 162 games because he's not.
Yeah,
so.
I bet that 13 comes to about 10 million. Since 8 million would be what he would be getting. He'd be getting 5 million. The difference between them.
That difference is the.
So I bet he lands. Yeah, I bet he lands at the 9-10 million category.
Yeah, the guy's productive when he's healthy. So, but that's the problem. Just like all these old farts. So, and Farhan has said publicly he knows they need to get younger and more athletic, and so that's why they have to kind of tread.
So let's sign Wilmer,
right? And Longo, and let's bring back Belt, and I know it's like
Belt ain't coming back, folks.
No, I don't think so. I'm just saying, like, if it were, to
I think Belt could come back on a minor league contract and prove himself to be.
He said he won't take one.
Okay, well then he's not coming back.
Yeah, he'll go somewhere else.
He's like, I've worked too hard. Yeah,
somewhere else.
He's like, I'm too well established. I'm not going to take some minor league deal and work my way up. He's like, I'm either going to sign a major league deal or I'm going to go away.
Yeah, and I understand that. Right, he's a veteran.
He's going to take the Tim Lincecum route of this is what I am. This is what I'm worth. And it's like, no, that's changed now, dude.
Yeah, sorry, man. Just can't stay healthy. Their pitching kind of ended up right in the middle of the pack at 13, and their offense, similar drop-offs as well. Batting average, 234 this year, good for 23rd, and then 249 last year, which was 7th, pretty good. OPS, 705 this year, 769 last year. So this year was 13th, middle of the pack. Last year was number 4. They were way up there in that on-base and slugging percentage. Runs per game this
the home
year.
Runs had to help, right?
Oh, yeah, and that was the big drop-off, too, and I'll get to that in a second. The runs per game, 4.42 this year, 4.96 last year. So this year was good for 11th. Last year was 6th best. And then team home runs. And, last year was insane with all their pinch-hit home runs and just spreading the home runs across the board. Last year, 241 was good for 2nd in all of Major League Baseball. This year, 183. So almost 60 fewer home runs, and that was good for 12th in the league. So,
Judge.
Yeah.
These are still, though, we're still like top half of baseball. These aren't like the kind of stats that you're like, oh, well, we were 12th in home runs. That means we suck. Like, a team that's 12th in home runs can still be a good team. It's other drop-offs that we see later.
The bullpen ERA. Yeah, the bullpen ERA and their defense really were, big. Think about it. The difference in making the playoffs was 7 games this year, something like that. 7 games, you could find that. That's 1 a month. That's 1 loss a month. Convert that to a win. That's how narrow that margin is. And that's where you kind of go, the bullpen blew at least 1 game a month. The defense blew at least 1 game a month, right?
I can think of 6 right now off the top of my head. I will say an interesting little thing about perception when it comes to baseball, though, is that like 107 wins obviously skewed it, but people are talking about this team. I was listening to talk radio last night, and callers were talking about one caller literally was like, I mean, you can't put a last place team on the field and expect people to come to the stadium. And I'm like, does this guy think we were last?
Yeah.
So we only played 4 games after we were eliminated. Isn't that weird to think about? Like that,
it is weird.
It felt so bad, and yet we only actually played 4 completely unimportant baseball games.
Right.
That's and like that to put 162 game season in perspective. That's kind of like the margin now. You don't have to be a 90 win baseball team anymore to be in the playoffs. So, it's just interesting because I was even thinking oh my God, this team was so bad. And I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, okay, we were just mediocre. We were just middle of the road. Finished 3rd out of 5 teams.
It is six games behind the Phillies. That was it. 6 games. I mean, you could find 6 games on the schedule.
Average.
Yeah.
You're right, though. You could find, especially against the Dodgers and Padres. I mean, the Padres killed them 13-6. The Dodgers killed them 15-4. And going 9-10 against Arizona doesn't help either. That's one of those spots where if they could have just won 2 or 3 games against that division rival, they would have snuck up in that playoff berth. So they, like you said, they really were not far, but they were the definition of average. They were the most average baseball team in the entire National League, I would say.
Yeah,
I was even thinking towards the end because I saw somebody post, hey, mathematically we can still get to the playoffs, and I was just thinking, I don't even want to be in the play. I don't want to have to watch the Giants just lose to whatever way better team they're going to be playing against. And the thing is, like when I say mediocre, like that means yes, we're better than a lot of baseball teams,
right?
But we are far worse than all of these teams in the playoffs. And I was trying to think. I was listening to Farhan, and he was talking about at the beginning of the year. We thought this is definitely a playoff team. But as the season progressed, I was kind of wondering how we think that this is a playoff roster, right? When you really looked it up and down, who's carrying this team, right? And when your big stars are, obviously like the starting pitching was fine, but when your big stars in your lineup are Wilmer Flores, we're not going to compete with the Dodgers, the Yankees, like any of these teams, right? The Mets.
Yeah, Wilmer Flores doesn't even come close to making the starting roster, the starting lineup for the Dodgers. I mean, he's going to be
he's a journeyman utility
26
guy.
man on the roster.
Yeah.
He should not have led the team in so many categories this year. He's
that's what's crazy about it.
Play guy. Yeah. I mean, you got the numbers here of the guys that really regressed, and that's what happened.
Yeah, those numbers, offensively speaking, and this does not include their replacements when they were injured.
It was offensive, all right.
But
I watched that.
I was offended.
But okay, so just these 4 individuals, and you can go down the list of other people too, but they're kind of 3 veterans and 1 kind of new guy that broke out last year. We all thought, oh man, if they have even close to these kind of years in 2022, they're going to be fine. Well, that didn't even come close. And so we're going to start with these guys. So Brandon Belt's probably number 1 on that list. Last year, 274, 975 OPS, 29 bombs. This year, 213, 676, and only 8 bombs. Lamont Wade Jr., breakout year last year, right? Oh my God, Farhan's so savvy, getting him from Baltimore. This is fantastic. 253, 808, 18 bombs last year, 56 RBI. This year, 207, 665, 8 and 26. Crawford, same thing. Last year, unbelievable resurgence in his career, little renaissance, little like, holy crap. Got awarded with a 2-year contract by hitting 298, 895, 24, and 90. I mean, those numbers are so legit for a shortstop. Those are like amazing numbers.
That's like a
right?
top 5 shortstop.
Yeah, those are amazing numbers. And this year, 231, 652, only 9 and 52. And the thing with him is that, he had some injuries this year, but he played most of the year. And so that was just pure drop-off. It wasn't, he didn't play half the year because his knee was busted, right?
Well, he might have been playing hurt for some of the year, though.
Sure.
Too. But I will say this, though, in his defense was still there. He was still a bright spot most of the year on the defensive end, so we still had that.
Yeah, he had a stretch like around the time he was hurt this year where his defense was a little lacking, but I thought he finished the season really, really strong.
Yeah, he had some.
It was all over
on the end of there.
Yeah, he still made a bunch of incredible plays throughout the season.
Oh my God, yeah. He covers ground still that other guys don't.
And he's still going to be the guy next year, in the last year of his 2-year extension there. And then, of course, Yaz, and there's always been question marks with him, but his defense has been so solid. But last year, he hit only 224, but he slashed 765 with 25 bombs and 71 RBI. And this year, 214, so 10 points worse, 697, 17 home runs and 57. So overall, though, between those four guys, their 2022 campaign was 54 fewer homers and 115 RBI less. That is a superstar that they missed. That is like almost an Aaron Judge, right? Aaron Judge had 62 and like 130, and here we are, 54 and 115. That is like a top 5 offensive star. They just took off the team. They just said, "Yeah, we don't need you." So that was massive.
To be fair, honestly, like the Belt, Wade, and Crawford drop-offs, those are kind of huge. Looking at Yaz's numbers, I'm thinking we kind of should have seen that coming with Yaz. But this
is what you can expect from Yaz year in and year out, and that's fine if he doesn't have to be in the middle of your lineup, right? Like the problem was that there was definitely a period of time there in the middle of the season where Yaz just felt like literally a hole in the lineup. It was just like, oh no, here comes Yaz. Well, that's a strikeout. Whereas when he's right, when he's playing well, what he brings is danger, right? It's not that he's gonna ever hit like 300, but he's always got the potential to run into one, and he plays great defense. So if he does that and you don't need him to be a main cog in the wheel, that's fine. But the problem is he played like every freaking day, and it was just like, oh my God, can we just rest this guy? Like, can I not have to watch him strike out looking again? But
him, Wilmer, and Tyro were the only 3 that would have qualified for the batting title this year, and that just really also speaks to the injury factor that snagged the Giants, roster during the season. If only 3 guys had enough plate appearances to qualify, and that's just averaging 3.1 plate appearances per game. That's it. So it's 502, I believe. So there's 3 guys that did it. The other guys didn't get to that plateau. I mean, that just goes to show you that injuries just nailed them so much. And Yaz is forced to being a middle of the lineup guy at times, even when he's struggling. They were joking in a Fox broadcast where, oh my God, this team's not good if Wilmer Flores is their number 3 hitter. And everybody got fucking offended. Everybody's like, oh, come on, how can you talk crap about the Giants? Yet here we are 2 days after the season and saying, well, if Wilmer Flores is your number 3 hitter, you're not going to contend. It's the exact same thing. We just, people didn't want to see it at that time because, there was still some.
I think of Wilmer Flores should be like a 6 hitter, and he's like a guy who's dangerous in the 6 slot, right? And Yaz should be like 8.
On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays too. Not every day. That's the other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And but we're like, no, this is our superstar. This is our Willie Mack winner. This is our guy. That's not gonna cut it.
This is fun. So we knew that they set the record for most appearances by a player or by players on a roster this year. I think it was Mike Ford was wearing 65 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
66.
66 is the final number for this year, which is unbelievable. And you look at these names on this list, and I recall these names, but you just forget these names. You know what I mean? This is like Kai Tom, Willie Calhoun, Austin Dean, Papierski, Kevin Padlo, Dixon Machado, Bryce Johnson is still on the list. Brinson, who was just let go. Donovan Walton on the 60-day DL. Mercedes, who was up and down a couple times and was hitting like number 4 on those days that you were just guys talking about. It's like, why are these guys in the middle of the lineup? They don't have anyone else on certain days. I mean, or the matchups we were playing. Oh, yeah, let's put in this guy for, the number 4 side. Vossler, Casale. It goes on and on and on. Darren Ruff, of course, was traded out. It was just an unbelievably tumultuous year, and it's really hard to kind of fixate on this roster when you don't have any stability or continuity in it. It's just really frustrating as a fan. I mean, we joked about it. It was like maybe it was a good thing they started putting names on the backs of the jerseys, even though I don't like it aesthetically. It helps with this roster rotation.
I think a really good jersey to buy would be number 66 and put on the back of it some guy. They just like,
player
that jersey in the dugout store.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's a good idea.
Take
You know,
advantage of it, right?
and it's funny though, because like fans generally, we can recognize that injuries happen and things happen. For like 2-3 years, we were talking about, like, you know, last year we were talking about, look at the Giants' depth, look at how deep they are. You know, Wade Jr. goes down and Flores steps up. Flores goes down and there's this Estrada guy. Like, there was depth last year. This year there was just none of it. They literally ran into a wall once they lost their regular everyday players, which I still put in quotes because they were a platoon team. So it's like there was so many factors. Honestly, it's kind of a small miracle maybe that they finished 81-81. I mean, this team could have been 69 and something. They were just, between all the injuries. Starting pitching has to be what kept them there.
I'm gonna give another factor that I think got them to 81-81 with the roster this friggin' bad. Kapler.
Yeah.
I honestly think he's actually a very, very good manager, and a lot of people were blaming him for anytime anything went bad. I think you have to give him a lot of friggin' credit though for taking a quadruple A roster and actually making a third place team out of it. So give him some good players and let's see what happens. You know what I mean? The guy squeezed 107 wins out of pretty much this roster minus the injuries. You know, plus Buster Posey, obviously. But yeah. Let's see what he can do if you actually give him some superstars. I'm curious. I, for one, would like to know.
Yeah, I would like to see some of these keyboard warriors who, you know, were calling for his head, you know, who they would have replaced him with, and if they could have done a better job with this roster, 66 players of a bunch of quad A players getting to 500.
Yeah, think about that. You have to know who Dixon Machado is and where you should put him in the lineup.
I mean, I'd just be rolling dice. I'd just be like a 9-sided die, and that's your position number for the day. Yep. Oh, Dixon Machado, you're pitching. Sorry.
That's why those guys were. We thought they were just ball dudes, but no, those guys who showed up in those jerseys that day, they were just hoping maybe they could put the lineup.
Machado was a result of, hey, we're playing the Cubs and we don't have any more shortstops. Hey, Cubs, do you guys have any shortstops we can get real quick? And then they did. It was hysterical. That's almost the highlight of the season for that reason. Because they cut his ass as soon as. Yeah,
and then he was like, "Yep, that's enough." We don't
just went across the way to the other dugout and was like, "Oh, okay."
This poor guy. I mean, I hope he doesn't have a wife and family, and he moved them and moved. You know, I mean, damn, baseball's cruel sometimes.
Yeah, no, even he knew that was a Band-Aid. He was a Band-Aid for a week or whatever it was. So.
Oh my God, we're not talking about Dixon Machado in a season where they win 100 games. We're talking about Dixon Machado in a season that falls apart.
Yeah, who was the Dixon Machado of last year? There wasn't one.
No.
Well, if you want to talk about production, you know, one of the hot stats in the baseball analytic world is WAR, wins above replacement. And it's, you know,
wins above any guy on the Giants.
Basically. Yeah, I was about to say it should be WAG. It should be WAG.
Yeah. They are replacement level.
Wins above Giants.
Wins above an average Giant.
So, you know, they have offensive and defensive WAR, but as far as you kind of add those up for the total WAR, and we'll break it down into some of its components. But basically, Carlos Rodon led the team with a 5.4. No surprise there. Webb right behind him with a 4.8. I thought what was surprising is third on the list was Alex Cobb at 2.6. And then Yaz was the top position player. Now, that's not because of his offense. That's because of his defense. And if you look at the difference between offensive WAR and defensive WAR, Thairo Estrada led the team in offensive WAR actually with a 3.2, but his defensive WAR was rated as a minus 1.2, which is why he's down so low. And then you got Yaz with only a 1.5 offensive WAR, but you add his defensive WAR is in positive territory. So, you know, it's a complex mathematical model. It's a pretty good barometer of where these players are, but it's kind of up to what the team needs at the time. So Yaz is great in the outfield, you know, kind of subpar, you know, at the plate. So what are you going to do? But the top 9 after Yaz, Doval won 9, Estrada won 7, Jacob Junis won 6, Brebbia, because he had all those openers, I think, 1.6, and then Jock Peterson all the way down at number 9 at 1.3. So interesting to see some of these guys like
replacement.
Aaron Judge being at like a 10 WAR, which is insane, right? And the Giants only had one guy above 5, and he was, gonna get some Cy Young votes, basically.
Yeah, that's true. I'll speak to Cobb in the sense that is one of the under the radar better signings we've made in the past all season, and he'll be under contract next year.
Yeah, when he's right, man, he's good. His stuff is great.
He's got a really heavy sinker.
I'm really annoyed that we didn't get to see what the pitching rotation with Wood and DeSclafani would have actually looked like. You know what I mean? Because if that's actually the 4, and then you just have whoever in that 5th slot, right? Eunice or whatever it ended up being, that's freaking solid, man. That harkens back to like when we were talking about like in the era of the. What was it when Barry Zito was our 5th starter or whatever, right? We're kind of in that general vicinity, to be honest, but we just didn't get to see it this year.
The starting staff, I cannot say enough good things about the starting pitching this season.
Yeah.
Between Webb, Rodon, Cobb was fantastic.
Yeah.
Wood, we forget about him because Wood got shut down a few weeks ago.
But he was fine.
He put up more than 25 starts. The Giants had 4 guys give 25-plus starts this year, one of 6 teams in baseball to do it. Every other team, by the way, a playoff team. And they're the only team in baseball to do it in back-to-back years. They had 4 guys start 25-plus games last year. So it's great that they have that strength kind of locked up right now. That's why we can freely talk about you need to go get hitters. You need to splash the cash, like everybody's saying. Let's go pay money. Let's go get some free agents and do this because we can all see what's going on with the pitching. It's not like they're getting blown out of these games. We can literally, off the top of our head, think of like the 2-3 blowouts this year, and that was it. Giants were not generally getting their butt kicked unless they were playing the Dodgers. Generally, they were hanging in there and close in games this year because of the starting pitching.
Yeah, in fact, Alex Cobb this year, he finished with that 3.73 ERA, but he started that season, well above a 6 ERA. He had a couple of bad luck starts, and his field independent pitching kind of shows that as well, being down at 2.8. That was his FIP this year. So just an excellent year for Alex Cobb. There's no doubt about it. 28 starts for him, 149 innings. He's going to be a solid piece of the rotation next year, especially if they're not going to be able to replace Rodon, that's going to be a huge gap, and that's kind of a concern. We'll see what happens there.
It's like even if they re-sign Gausman, what's that going to improve this team? They would have finished 83, 84 wins.
Yeah, Gausman he wouldn't have fixed it.
No,
unfortunately.
No,
by the way,
again,
I was just curious about something, so I just looked it up. So take this starting rotation and then put it up against 2014 when we won the World Series. Bumgarner was our best pitcher with 2.98 ERA. Then we had Vogelsong, Hudson, Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain, Jake Peavy, and Petit got a bunch of starts too. This is a better rotation than that one. We're talking like half of these guys are over the hill, and that rotation got it done. So, well, obviously like Bumgarner, but I'm just saying this rotation not bad. This rotation is pretty good.
And again, you think about the win total from 2014. They were the last wild card, the number 10 seed with 88 wins. Again, only a 7-win difference between this year's team. That's, again, 1 win a month. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, but this year's rotation blows that out of the water. They had to trade for Jake Peavy. Yeah, they had to trade for Peavy. He was a Band-Aid, and he ended up just being a Band-Aid.
Think about the playoffs. Too. Hudson and Peavy were getting like 2 innings on their starts. You know what I mean?
That's true.
It was crazy.
It was a quick hook for them.
Can you give us 2? And then we got Affelt, and then that goes to Bumgarner.
But what's amazing is between like 08 and that 14 team, they had a stretch of like 5-6 years where they had 4 guys start 25-plus games for them. You had Kaner, you had Timmy, you had Bumgarner, you had Vogelsong. And it was an amazing run to put together. Like these 4 guys that they've got now could be that kind of thing. Disco, if he gets it together, if he's healthy, Disco could be the missing piece. They might not have to do. They obviously have to replace Rodon, but they might not have to do as much as they thought they did.
Replace him with Rodon. That's what I would like.
Same.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Jeez. Oh my God.
Future New York Met Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, that's a bad thing, and we'll get to that in a second.
Tell you what, you give us DeGrom, I'll let you have it.
Yeah, yeah. If he could stay healthy, though, that's the problem. And when he's healthy, he's like God on the mound. But
but that was the Rodon thing too. Before that was the question mark with him.
Yep.
Although,
right
albeit he's younger. So
yeah, I think DeGrom's 34 and Rodon is what, 30?
He's about to be 30.
About to be 30, yeah, something like that. So yeah, I think they're like about 4 years difference. So, all right, well let's talk about our favorite games of the season. So for me, I mean, there's a lot to choose from. They had a lot of good comebacks, a lot of good offensive performances. I think I only have one video clip for mine, but I'll go ahead and add it. And here we go. This is my favorite game of the year.
Great speed at third with Slater.
High drive into center field. Davis on the move. It is
This was the beginning of the Brewers not making the playoffs.
Yes, it was.
We did it. It was us. They just dumped their closer. They were like, nope, you suck.
Yeah, so that was, of course, the epic, 7-8 run comeback in the ninth inning against the Brewers. Capped off with
effectively, now I think it's officially the worst ever save attempt in the history of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And not a save attempt, but just, inning by a closer.
Well,
it was
funny,
so fun when Bart let it off with the homer, and you're like, okay, maybe there's a chance they can cobble something together, and then to end it like that was just phenomenal. It was just amazing. Nobody expects that. It was a lefty-lefty matchup.
Yeah. What happened to Josh Hader, man? Everyone points to a couple of times the Giants destroyed him, and that just set him off the dark path because he was doing okay all the way up into that.
Fish tacos and started surfing or something. I don't know.
But it's true. He screwed up against the Giants with San Diego. I remember a game when I was on the road from my Colorado Odyssey where he came in the ninth and the Giants suddenly scored 2 or 3 runs.
Okay, I'm adding this back to the stream. This game was on July 15th or whatever. Look at his stats there.
I know.
2.73 ERA. Oops.
168 opponents.
Yeah,
I think it went up like a half a point just from this outing.
Oh my God! No, I think it went over 4 from that outing, and then he just kept tanking it after that.
It was ridiculous. It blew him up.
I mean, he was the best reliever in baseball. I don't know what happened to him. He just he broke. It was weird, but.
Well, this is the problem with that position, though, and I was saying this about Camilo Duvall. It's we need to enjoy him when we have him because these guys they get to a certain point and they break down. It's hard to come into a game 60 times a year and throw as hard as you can, even if it's just one inning.
Yeah. All right, Willie, what was your favorite game or moment?
Mine is it's a series of moments. It's the Evan Longoria game where he had the 2 home runs and the double, and then he had 3 incredible defensive plays, and then he made the tag to get the final out on a very strange tag up play with 2 outs. That just everything about that guy. It was one of the few games where I just sat my butt down and just watched the whole thing, and it just turned into. I mean, it was Hunter Pence was calling the game too. The whole game, they were just Longoria, this is amazing. Look at this guy. This is he's 25 again. It was, it was incredible to watch. And the play he made on the high chopper, I'll never forget that one. That was awesome. He finally got outdid by the Crawford deflection play. I don't know if you guys saw that one.
Yeah.
Where it deflected off of the third baseman and he put himself in a perfect throwing position as it was coming down.
It was just beautiful.
It was just beautiful.
Awesome.
That's what I picture is the reaching.
Yeah. Audio listeners, Eric's setting up like Crawford, waiting for that ball to come down.
The ball landed right in his hand. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was perfect. But Longo did it first. He learned that from Longo, and it was really fun to watch, and it was the big smile on his face and then they also had to go to replay for the final out. They called him safe initially or something, and then they had to check it, and then when the guy came back and was out, and everyone was just and it was enjoyable. I've always talked about this is the biggest problem with replay is that you don't get those moments where you just are so happy, and it's not going to change.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the reverse of that, where you get this like, oh, could it be? And then it is, and that's kind of awesome too. So, yeah, that was a fun game.
Eric, what about you?
The Giants were less than 50% of their challenges this year. Cap does not have the best record. I loved Jock's 3-homer game. It was City Connect, which y'all know I love the City Connect uniforms, and I don't care. And Bonds was in the house. Bonds had just come and talked to the team and was hanging out. And Jock went out and hit 3 homers with Bonds in the house to be only the 3rd player ever to hit 3 home runs in a game at that ballpark. I thought somebody else had a chance to do it later in the year. I forgot who, but I thought they might do it. But Jock's 3-homer game was my fun one. It was just because Barry was in there, and they talked about it. He's like, yeah, a lot of us sat and talked with Barry and things like that. They all got out of their comfort zone. They all just listened to him and reacted when they got to the plate. And it's wide. I mean, Barry needs to talk. I remember tweeting that night. Barry needs to talk to the team every series, every week. I don't care if this is what they're going to do. And Jock was a lot of fun this year. That's when we still had hope that this team was good. So, to me, that could have been one of the big moments of the season had they been a playoff team, something that we look back on. But to be only the 3rd man ever to hit 3 home runs at Oracle Park in a single game, joining Pablo and Kevin Elster, is pretty, it's a pretty damn fine accomplishment.
By the way, remember when we were talking about how the Giants were running up the score on teams and they were getting really mad?
Right?
Yes!
This was around that time. We were bunting with 7-run leads and stealing bases and stuff. Yeah, there was a time when we thought this was a good team.
Yeah.
They were the bullies last year. I mean, they'll be it again if Cap gets some talent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My God. We just highlighted a bunch of the guys that were disappointing, and so I just wondered if you guys had a different take. I myself definitely had 1 or 2 guys on that list, but the biggest disappointment probably was Belt number 1 and Lamont Wade number 2, only because I know he had injuries just like Belt did, so part of that disappointment is that. But hey, look, you got to roll it all up. That's part of the contract. That's part of the expectation. But Lamont, they kind of got off the trash heap, and he was great last year and not good this year. But Eric, what about you?
It's funny with Belt. I never get my hopes up with him, so he never feels like a disappointment because he gets
he's doing what I thought he would do.
Well, yeah, it's like which the bare minimum is good enough when it comes to Belt, because bare minimum is getting on the field. Like every year, it just feels like, oh my God, is Belt even going to be healthy enough? Well, whatever we get out of him is good, and it sucks that it's that way. Mine was as a disappointment though, because I mean, I don't know, 2-3 years ago when he burst on the scene in the 19 season, I thought that he was going to be a productive middle of the order type. And as we've talked about here today, and that's why I'm not going to dig any deeper on this, he is not that. And so I'm just disappointed that he can't seem to get out of his own way. I really think a lot of his problem is in his head. I really think when he goes up to the plate, he changes his plan or has the wrong plan or something like that. So I thought he was the biggest disappointment. I really thought Yaz, being around an environment of a winning ball club, would thrive a little bit more than he did. And this September we learned that Yaz turns it on when the Giants are kind of out. So I think that's where what kind of player he is. I'm a little disappointed in that, just in general.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be any better than really the last couple of years. That's who he is.
No.
What about you, Willie?
Well, not really for anything that happened on the field, but because he just didn't get on the field. We signed Discofani to 3 years or whatever, and then he just gets shut down like a month into the season. So we never got to see what the rotation was really going to look like because we just, it basically became a 1-2 punch of Webb and Rodon, and then whoever the hell else we could get to suit up. So many bullpen games this season. And I guess, in a way, how can we expect the bullpen to be good when we have to rely on them to start every 4th game or whatever? So,
but that's what's so screwed up. In the games they started, they only allowed like 1 or 2 or 3 runs in each of them.
Those games they actually did pretty good. But
the openers were pretty good.
Other games. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're putting so much, you're taxing these guys so much, and
that's true.
You can't really rely on that without. We just didn't have starters. We didn't have starters, and the starters were great when they were in there. That's the problem. They were so great when they were in there, but oh my God, Raymond Fuentes in the chat, Listella. Yeah, that's another one. He just never on the field. And when he was, they were like, well, he can't run. We're gonna put him DH and bat him 4. And you're like, what? Why?
Well, Eric and I talked about Tommy LaStella pre-show because, we found out whatever it was, October 3rd, I think you said, Eric, but, sometime just a week ago, we found out that he actually had surgery on both Achilles tendons in the offseason. It was like, oh, well, that would have been nice to know. Not it would have changed anything, but, it would have been nice to know. And then Susan Slusser was on from Dublin to Ireland this morning with KMBR, Murph and Mac. And just very passively, because I was kind of thinking it wasn't a big deal and it's not a shocking news and it would be kind of expected. But she expects Tommy LaStella to be released sometime in the offseason, but maybe as late as spring training. Because they can't take a 26-man roster and put him on it. They just can't.
No. I'm done with guys.
They'll eat the contract. They'll eat the back end of the contract. It's the last year of his 3-year deal, and it's just he's proven that he just can't stay on the field. So
yeah. We have like a dozen of these guys who can't stay on the field. That's
that's the problem, right? That's the whole young and unathletic. Yeah.
And when you need 12 guys to make 6 players because you're playing platoon baseball, it kind of hurts when you lose 8 of those 12 guys.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. 66 players, baby. Willie, when did you know the season was over? Like when did you feel it?
I think we're all around the same time. It was about 2 or 3 weeks after the All-Star break. Going into the All-Star break, it felt like, okay, just we gotta have a good second half, and that seems doable. And then we just came out of the box like we just didn't care or something. I don't know. That was just a weird period there where we were so lethargic, and then we went on essentially like a month and a half slump.
Yeah,
like it was just so long. And then within that, there was a couple of times where we won like a couple games in a row, and you'd be like, okay, there it is. There's the momentum, and then just nope. And then we'd lose 5 in a row or something. Very, right after that. So it was it was right around that time. It just felt like no point anymore in caring about this team going anywhere. At that point, I think we were right around then. We all started talking on the show about, well, it's time to at least Joey Bart's doing better.
Yeah,
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had that kind of almost 12-year-old hopeful, spirit for up until, I'd say August. It was like, I know their only winning month was April, and they lost in May, and they lost in June, and they lost in July, but they could turn it around. They could turn.
We were still within striking distance, though.
And it was mathematically. It's like the NL West was out, but it was just running into the buzzsaw this year of the Dodgers, whom they've usually played very competitively against, no matter what kind of team they have. There's something about that rivalry where both teams play up to that level. And this year was their worst year ever against the Dodgers, going 4-15, including those 2 4-game sweeps, right? And that just, man, that was it. That was just like, okay, we're not even close to, we knew that anyway, but it's like just getting stomped like that just puts you so far out of the race. And at one point, I think they were 10 games back in the wild card, and it was like, okay, sayonara, the season's over. But I don't know, I kept feeling like they were going to get back into the race against teams like the Dodgers because they used to play them so well. Earlier this season in April, I think it was, they swept them in LA. And so things were, looking good at the beginning of the season. Yeah, that was this year.
3 of their 4 wins,
God.
Yeah, 3 of their 4 wins or 5 wins or whatever it was. Anyway. What about you, Eric?
I wrote down the losing streak after the All-Star break, but, to be honest with you, looking at the schedule, I kind of had an inkling right at the beginning of July when they went to Detroit and they lost that second game, or not went to Detroit. Detroit came to town. They lost that after losing 2 or 3 to Cincinnati. They split with Detroit, and then they lost 3 straight to the White Sox.
Yeah.
So they got beat up at home by crap teams. And I kind of had an inkling. I'm like, okay, this team's not ready for prime time. This is not going to be a good team this year. And, they went on a road trip, and they came home after that, and they went on a tear. 2 or 3 from Arizona, and then 3 or 4 from Milwaukee, including breaking Josh Hader. So I had that moment of, okay, maybe I judged them a little too quickly. Maybe they do have something. And then they came out of the All-Star break so absolutely flat. So I had an inkling it was over with that home stretch against the Reds, Tigers, and White Sox. But it was 100% over for me. The end of that Arizona series after the All-Star break. Once they got swept by Arizona after getting swept by the Dodgers, that was just too much for me. I'm like, really? If you're getting swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks, then that's it. That is way too much. So that was kind of it right after the All-Star break. Like, I didn't care that they took 3 or 4 from the Cubs that weekend after coming back, because the Dodgers came to town and swept them 4 straight after that. And, it all showed was the Giants are mediocre. They can beat the bad team, but they get their ass kicked by the good team.
Did you see what do you recall what their record was against Arizona last year?
Yeah, it was not 17, 16-3, right?
No, 17-2. You were right the first
17-2.
time.
Oh, damn.
17-2. My Lord. It's just insane what they did.
I mean, that's the whole difference between a playoff spot right there.
It's the whole difference and more. Yeah.
It is.
I know. If they had reproduced that, they would be in the playoffs right now.
Arizona was decent for part of the year this year, but they showed who they were towards the end of the year. There's a reason the Giants went good in September, and it was playing Arizona and Colorado.
Yeah, there was a point the Giants actually slipped to 4th place behind Arizona. And they ended up finishing, well above Arizona. But yeah, it kind of got a little scary there. But thankfully, they didn't slip that far. All right, so let's go down this last list of player performances. Giants MVP. This was a hard one for me, to be honest, because typically I don't like to take pictures for your MVP. Just like kind of in baseball, it doesn't happen that often. I mean, you have you guys like Dennis Eckersley and others that have done it in the past, but the starting rotation was the kind of the crown jewel. So I got to go with Carlos Rodon, and he was just so dominant this year. He's going to have again Cy Young consideration. Not going to win it. But I thought he just, every time he came on, it was almost like Timmy Day, right? You kind of expect that win. Almost led the league in strikeouts, and he was just very valuable. I don't like the way the season ended, and I don't like the fact that he's probably going to walk, but I got to go with that.
Rodon's a
it's
good
his
choice.
best season of his career, though. He doesn't have to walk. Like, in a way, you might think, well, I pitched really good in the stadium. Maybe I should stay here,
Yeah, Eric, I almost went with your guy.
Yeah, I Tyro was my MVP. He just was the most consistent guy, it seemed, all year long at the plate. I know Flores did get a lot of love, and rightfully so, because he had the most at bats and plate appearances and was definitely out there the most. But Tyro the team seems to really like him too. He really seems like a guy who's well liked by his teammates, and they always want to see him succeed. I mean, you always want to see your teammates succeed, but you can tell when guys are pulling for other guys better than other guys. And he felt more like the heart and soul of this team than anybody else. He had a game he took over in, I think it was Colorado this year, where he tied up a game at one point and then homered to win it or something like that. So overall, I just thought he was consistently their best player, and screw the stats for knocking down his defense. I don't care. I loved watching Tyro in the field and at the plate. He was fun to watch at the plate.
I mean, he had to play
Will Clark,
second base, left field. He had to play all over the damn place.
Yeah,
to hear Will say that he's the hitter he likes to watch, Will Clark say that earlier this year when he was in the booth, it was kind of like an eye-opener and a thought of, I can totally see why. His approach is good. He expands his zone once in a while, and that's almost good. Like, the Giants hitters are so programmed to not expand their zone. Tyro's willing to expand it a little bit, and I appreciate that because, sometimes you have to freelance. Sometimes you don't need to follow the exact plan all the way. And so he's got that in him, and I think that that's part of what makes him a pretty good player. So Tyro is my MVP for this year. He was my favorite player to watch.
And he was another reclamation project, of course. He was, they thought he was the next coming of whatever great second baseman for the New York Yankees.
Buster's the reason he's a Giant. Buster saw him when they played the Yankees. Buster saw him and went to the front office and said, if you can get a chance to get this Tyro Estrada guy, you need to go out and get him. And I love hearing a story like that. I mean, you talk about Buster being away from the team this year and it making a huge difference. Like, now that he's part owner again, and we talked about it, it'd be awesome if he were to chime in on something like, oh, this guy's got something, because he was right about Tyro. Tyro's a pretty good Major League ball player.
Yeah.
Now, we just got to tell him, don't bunt with the bases loaded.
What the F was that? I mean, what are you
doing? just we got to take that out of his game.
Yeah.
We got to take that out of the entire
whole
everything.
Bunting with two strikes.
Bunting with two strikes. Bunting with the bases loaded. Yeah.
I know what it was. I can intellectually understand the reasoning behind this whole bunting thing they do, where it's when the shift is happening and they do that thing where with two strikes they move the third baseman over to the other side of second base, right? So they're like, okay, now if you bunt, there's nobody down the line, and if it is a guy, it's a shortstop trying to make a play from third base. So statistically, it should be whatever. It's like, yeah, but there's 2 strikes, and if I bunt it foul, I'm out. So maybe don't do that.
I'm still so angry about these bunts that, as we talked about, and you guys can verify, I threw my hat. I don't have my hat on anymore. That's how angry these bunts made me this season. I'm so tired of this crap. Just swing the bat. Jock Peterson, you have 23 home runs. Swing the fucking bat. That's all you're paid to do. Just swing the bat. You're not paid to get on. You're paid to drive in guys. Swing the bat. Sorry, done.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. 2 strikes, just no excuse for that. So, okay, Willie, who's your MVP?
I mean, I'm just going to take the correct choice, which is Wilmer. Unfortunately.
Well, he did.
He
did win the Willie Mack Award. We didn't mention that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was the best Giant. If we're talking, everyday position players, he was the best Giant all year.
Yeah.
That's not the guy that I want to be the best Giant all year, though. He's supposed to be, an enhancement player. He's supposed to be a guy who's out there. We can put him wherever we need. He can play first, he can play second, he can play third, he could do whatever. But instead he had to carry the club. That's not what he's supposed to do. So he's, I love the guy. He's awesome. He's a big boy. He's got a lot of power. He's got a solid mindset at the plate. And he's willing to do whatever needs to be done. And I love that about him. But, yeah, he's got a sweet walk-up song. But it's just thank you for this season, Wilmer. Now we should never ask no one should ever ask you to do what you had to do this year ever again. He should be like the 6th hitter on a really good team is what he should be, and hopefully that's his position next year.
All right, Cy Young. I think that was an easy call. All 3 of us agreed, and I just mentioned him as MVP. But yeah, Carlos Rodon. So I mean, Webb had a fantastic season. There's no doubt about it.
Webb had more wins.
For whatever that's worth, by one. One more.
I mean, to get 15 wins on this ball club is
and their ERA was .02. It was like almost identical ERA. So I mean, in a lot of ways, they really had kind of the same season. But I think it was just the dominance of the strikeout, right? There's something sexy about those strikeouts and being able to just mow guys down and not rely on your defense as much. And he definitely had that. So, but yeah, Rodon across the board. Let's talk about best breakout player. I admit I cheated. I took 2, kind of a mainstay on the roster and then kind of an up and coming. But I think Camilo Duvall. I mean, he ended with a 2.85 ERA, 27 saves. Just had an excellent year. He had some rocky appearances in the beginning, and he really settled down. He added the extra pitch, and he was reliever of the month in September, like he was last year. Just a solid year, and he definitely looks like the closer for the next couple years, hopefully. And then David Villar, he came up a couple of times, but look, he hit 26 home runs in AAA, and then 9 in the major leagues, so 35 or whatever home runs across the board. That's the first Giant to hit that many home runs in the organization since Barry Bonds hit 42. So it's been a long time since a Giant actually accumulated that many home runs. Yes, not at the major league level, but even combined in the minor leagues, that hasn't happened. So I think there's some bright spots there, and we'll see what the future looks for him, because if Longo is renegotiated to sign next year, VR may have less opportunity to come up, but I think he's definitely waiting in the wings.
He was fun to watch sometimes. He had a great game Wednesday. He had 2 homers. In
2 home runs, in the finale. That's a good way to end the season. That'd be sweet,
Yeah.
Well, like Stephen Vogt, ex-Giant, of course, went out with the A's,
was so fun.
Hitting a home run in his final at bat, and the way he was circling the bases, he was like a little kid, man. That was so fun to see. I love that kind of spirit, He was just jumping for joy and so excited. He gets to walk out like that. It's just great.
I love Camilo. I'm with you on your Camilo. I just put Tyro because we didn't expect Tyro to play as much even as he did this season.
Yeah.
And I feel like he just proved himself as an everyday player. So to me, he's kind of the breakout star. He's the Wade Jr. or Mike Yastrzemski of this season in a sense. So
yeah,
Tyro was my breakout.
It was supposed to be our starting second baseman.
Exactly.
For the year, right?
Yeah, and then Tyro, like you said, got thrown into 8 different positions. I mean, he was out in left field to finish some games. So. He was definitely my breakout star. Oh, sorry, baseball.
What about you, Willie?
You'll see it in 30 seconds.
So
yeah, I know, because I'm on
my
the
guy that I'm picking here isn't a breakout star necessarily, but he broke out from himself finally and became at least serviceable, and that's Joey Bart. There was just so much doubt at the beginning of the year, and when he went down and came back, it was like, okay, thank God you're not a total bust, because the way things look, he's gonna be the guy next season. That we're not out there looking for catchers right now. So
I just saw it. Okay,
he's gonna have to continue to break out, but he's definitely got. I mean, the power is there, it's undeniable. The real thing that I think he made a lot of strides in, though, too, outside of that, was just how he handles the pitching staff. We don't have a starting staff that has the numbers they do without good catchers, right? So, it's good that he's come along in that respect. And then just, you don't have to be Buster, dude. Just be Joey Bart. But it was just nice to see him not just get shat on anymore and not be hitting 170 and striking out like more than half of his at bats. Like towards the end of the year, he actually looked like a baseball player who could play at the major league level. So, and the other ones are obvious. Obviously, if the real answer is Camilo and Tyro.
But that's good. I mean, Joey Bart,
he's so cool.
I was getting worried about Bart, and it really was reassuring to see him go down and come back up and finally just kind of right the ship. And there's not as many concerns now.
It was kind of a big story this year for me. It was just, as the season came to a close and we realized we weren't going to make the playoffs, was okay. This is the Bart watch now. How's he going to do?
Yeah.
And what other young guy is going to, show us something here? So there was some promising stuff there at the end.
Yeah.
His bat is quick as hell, and when the ball hits it, it goes far. Like I remember, Chad, you were telling me his batting practice sessions are insane.
Oh, it's one of those things when again, you don't see it in the game, you don't see it on TV, but and you guys have been on the field. When you're on the field and that close to the cage, you just hear the difference. It's like the first time and the only time I've ever saw Tiger Woods live. It was at Pebble Beach when he was in the prime of his career, and of course the galley following him was insane, right? So I went ahead like 4 holes just to put myself in a position where the ropes were really close to the tee box. So I planted myself there and saw a few groups come through, and then Tiger comes through, and he's 8-10 feet from me, and everyone hushes, and he takes out his driver, and the speed at which the club went, the sound it made cutting through the air, and then the contact of the ball, totally different than any other player. And Barry Bonds was like that, obviously, but Joey Bart, I mean, he is a strong country boy, man. There's no doubt about it. So there's no question in my mind if he somehow can put it together, he's going to hit lots of bombs as a catcher. So a lot of good things coming his way. We got a lot of. For it. He is. Looks like he could crush my head with his hand, just pop it like a grape. We got a lot of prognostications to go through, but real quickly, because we got the whole offseason to talk about a lot of this stuff, but just real quickly, who should they keep and who should they sign that's a free agent? Myself, I'd love if they could somehow find a way to sign Rodon. And Jock, even though he was limited in his appearances, he led the team in home runs and average, right? He was extremely valuable in those regards. So they got him for a deal this year, a steal. They're not going to get him for $6 million. We know that. But if they could keep both of those guys. And then who should they sign? Well, of course, they are not going to sign all of these guys, but kind of on the Christmas list. Number one, of course, is Aaron Judge. But, another infielder, Correa, a Bogarts, who's going to be a free agent. Josh Bell over at first base would be a good replacement. And then maybe a good speedy outfielder with some good contact, like a little bit of pop, Brandon Nemo or something like that. That's kind of what I was thinking. What about you, Willie?
Obviously Judge is number one on the list. It's funny that everyone's talking about shortstops, and we're definitely going to have Crawford for one more year. I guess the issue is that the shortstops this is kind of the best crop we're going to see.
That's what it is.
So it's like you got to get one now and then figure out who's going to play second. But so there's a couple of this would be great if everything fell into line. So Trey Turner obviously would be number one. But if we're talking weird, crazy stuff that's not going to happen, but would be really cool if it did, is Arenado. I would love Arenado.
Yeah. So he is technically
going
going
out of a deal.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And they've said he's probably not going to.
With Goldschmidt, that's a pretty nice pop. But imagine an Aaron Judge Arenado 3-4.
Oh my God,
1-2 be... you know what I mean? That could be pretty saucy. And also he plays
video
third,
game.
And that's a spot that I think needs improvement. I like the Bell idea though at first base. I really like that a lot because. Belt is not the answer. We need somebody over there. And what is it Wilmer? Is Wilmer just like your everyday first baseman? I don't think so. So
hell no.
I like that.
Yeah, Bell's a good choice. I think so. Keeping guys, I'd love to see them keep Jock. I'm just not sure it can happen. Same with Rodon. I want to see them keep both of them. But beyond that, like if they were to get rid of Longo, I would have been okay with it. But I'm also okay if he hangs around and gives them financial flexibility to get younger and faster. It all depends on which direction they do go. But I want Judge. I want Judge. I want him, and I don't want them to spend all their money on just him. I want Judge. I want, him mixed with maybe Nimmo and Bell. The Giants need to spend. It's been in our comments the entire show. Go out, spend money, show me something. I'm from Missouri at this point. You are a top tier ball club in a top market. You have the money. Go spend it. Go do it. If not now, when? And if not now, it'll never be.
I'm going to echo something I've heard a few times on KNBR from callers, which is a point I agree with. If the Giants are going to expect us to pay $25 for a friggin' sandwich and like $15 for a beer after we've already spent like $100 on tickets, then you better be spending that money that I'm giving you,
Right.
To go to a baseball game, if you're not in the press box, is crazy. It's freaking crazy. It's like
stupid.
It used expensive. To be a thing I remember when I was like 14 or something, and they were still at Candlestick Park. They had a thing where if you were 12 or under, your ticket was $1, and I could take the bus. I could put a quarter and get on the friggin' 15, take the bus down to the ballpark, go to the game, pay my $1, and I went to like 60 games that year by myself. And then I would spend, I don't know, $5 on like a soda and a hot dog or whatever, and that was it. Now it's like I go to the game and it's just like I'm looking at the stuff. I'm like, no, I just won't have water. I guess like I just like I just won't have any of this stuff. Like
just have water.
I paid for my seat. I'll just stay here. I'm not gonna move. I did the same at Wrigley for a year. I lived one L stop away from Wrigley.
Nice. And
it was not a year that the Cubs were good. So I literally would roll out of bed some days, hop on the L, walk up to the ticket, counter, like you said, and buy $5-6 ticket and go in and sit down and just be able to see baseball games for free. I mean, basically, almost for free. It was so cheap. Yeah. But a family of four nowadays, it's like $200-$300 to go to games.
You spend like $1,000 if you take 4 people to the game. You know what I mean?
It can be.
Chad did it this year. Yeah, Chad, how much did you? I mean, you don't have to give us a real number, but a ballpark. How much do you think you spent to take your family for?
What was not, I wouldn't say nice about it. But here's the thing, because we can't take public transit, right? We got to drive because we're kind of far distance or whatever. So it was Harry Potter night. We actually got, at least the promotion was reasonably priced for the upper deck, and you got the cool hat with it. So those were $26 a pop plus fees. It was like $30. So it was $120 for tickets, right? Parking, unfortunately, was $50. So you're already already up to $250. And then of course, just getting a hot dog and a soda itself is like $10 to $15, right? So that's $60 for the basic meal. But of course, I'm with my kids. It's their first and only game this year, so we kind of
you got to get them like ice cream and crap. And
So we spent well over $100 on food, and I didn't buy any booze. Like I had zero booze. We walked out of there for probably around $400 to $500. Yeah, and that's without booze and everything. So it's really, and that was like a quote cheap night. You know what I mean? That's not going and splurging on like lower box tickets for like $200 or $300 a pop. It's unbelievable now. But I just have one thing to say to Farhan about signing Aaron Judge.
Do it.
Just
do it.
That's it, baby.
If you do it, people will come and spend that friggin' money and not think about it because we just right now, like Dude, I had a ticket to a game at the very end of the year, and I was like, well, like my mom just like gave it to me. And I was like, I don't really feel like going down there right now. Like, I would just rather watch this game on TV. I was like, let me post these tickets on StubHub and see what happens. So I went to go look. These were like lower box tickets. And I was like, look at the tickets around it. How much people sell them for? They're selling them for like $20. Mm-hmm. I was like, these are like $60 tickets, at least. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go because I'm not going to post these on here and not sell them for like, $30 or whatever I end up getting.
Right.
And then by the time I was just curious, I looked, there are on StubHub around game time tickets for like $5-6 right now. So, that shows you the demand is not there.
Yeah, no, there are deals to be had, and if you're flexible with timing, if you only need one ticket or an odd number or something like that, there's totally those deals available. But, if they do sign someone like a Judge, I mean, that would just generate so much interest. Ticket sales would go through the roof. It would help them pay for part of his contract, that's for sure. But invariably, you'd probably see a nice spike, not just because of inflation. Beers will be, $22 next year, and it'll just go on and on and on. And
it's $22.
$99 beer.
$99 beers.
For that much money, fill up an actual bucket and hand it to me for $22 worth of beer. I mean, that's ridiculous. You can get an entire case of beer at the gas station.
All right, let's
America, dude. What do you want from us?
Freaking highway robbery. I know. Thank God we get to go to the press box once in a while to actually go to a game for relatively cheap.
Inflation there too. It's like $15 now to get the meal.
It is.
Oh my God, really?
It's definitely worth it.
It's definitely worth it.
A sandwich and a buffet, and you get like unlimited sodas and unlimited whatever, and you can go back and get cookies and I mean, I could literally go there and just make like 3 sandwiches if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Just bag them up when I get back to the press box.
Yeah, it used to be $10 for the buffet and $5 to make a sandwich. They removed the sandwich option. You can't do that. They still have sandwiches. You just can't pay for $5. And then they went from 10 to 15. So now like 15 is the only option. There's no other option. So you just do it or not, or bring your own lunch or eat in the stadium. But during the pandemic, they used to give us a code for 65% off the vendors, right? So I could go get a hot dog for like $4 instead of $9, right? So it actually made it somewhat reasonable, but they took away that too. So your only options are, bring in your box lunch, which you can do, or pay $15. But they have everything there, so just do that. And then media parking instead of 40 or 50, it's now 10. It was 8 last year, so even that's going up every year. It's just like, come on, guys, stop it. All right, let's rewind back to April. We had our season preview, and we talked about some interesting things. Like one of them, number one, was how many wins for the Giants. And we can blast through this real quick because I know we're going a little long. Vegas had them at
season wrap-up. It makes sense.
85.5, and we were like, boo, bah humbug. You guys thought 84 last year, and they blasted through with 107. So we even thought we were being somewhat reasonable. But I went low, the lowest of the group, with 92, Eric with 93, Willie with 94. Our listeners averaged 91.8, so around 92.
Wow.
So we were kind of all in that low to mid 90s. And as far as the listeners, the lowest submission we had was 86, and the highest was 102, so that was the range. And man, they didn't even meet Vegas odds. They were 3.5, whatever, under that. So, real disappointing year. We thought second place. They got third. We thought playoffs. All of us thought wild card. That didn't happen. And this is where it gets fun, like team leader in home runs. All of us went with Belt. He just hit 29 in 2021, so it was reasonable to think that, right? I went with 22. Willie went with 30. Eric went with 31. Yeah, well, he hit 9, so that happened. The team leader, by the way, was Jock Peterson with 23. The team leader in average, I went with Belt, 295. Willie went with Crawford, 290. He just hit 298. That's reasonable. And then Belt also went with 298 as well. It ended up being Peterson at 274, which is in itself really pathetic, right? That's your team leader, 274. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
It was not good.
Then it gets fun with the team leader in wins, which is always a subjective, dumb category. Eric nailed it, though. Got it with Webb going with 15. Nailed it. Willie, you thought Webb with 12, so you correctly guessed Webb. I went with Rodon 14. I nailed that. Rodon did in fact win exactly 14 games.
He got 14.
Yeah, that's
He just
true.
didn't lead the team. He missed it by 1. So we were good there. And then probably the most impressive prognostications gotta go to Willie, man. He was wrong in who led the team in ERA, but he nailed Webb's ERA at 2.90. That was the exact ERA he ended up in. And by the way, Rodon had 2.88, so he was almost virtually the team leader. And if he pitched that last game, who knows? If he allowed a few runs, you would have been spot on with that too. So, but that's
290 on the dot, huh? I mean, look,
on the dot, dude.
A good season, basically. Like,
That's crazy. Yeah. So Eric,
It's the most random of numbers you picked out of thin air, too.
I know,
That just makes it awesome.
I know they have a lot of prop bets in Vegas.
Dude, I would have made so much money.
I was gonna say, is there any do they have like a list of like ERAs and like you can put in a number and like you get paid 1,000 to 1 or something?
If
like
I'd have put $5 on that, I guarantee it would have been a lot.
Yeah,
over $1,000 for sure.
That would have been
I totally get
crazy.
your mentality there too. You're like, well, I think Webb's going to have another good season. I think he might be under 3 on his ERA, but pushing close to it. So 290 sounds good.
290,
290.
That's awesome.
About that, plus or minus. Nah, you nailed it. Eric also thought Webb with a full run higher, 3.89.
Yeah.
And then I thought Alex Cobb, and I was right in the sense of like Alex Cobb having a good year. He ended up, I thought 3.45. He ended up with a 3.73, so not too far off there. But yeah, he wasn't close to leading the team. But interesting picks there. And then All Stars. I had Webb, Rodon, Belton, Crawford. Only Rodon was the All Star. Willie, you had Belt, Webb, and Yaz. And then Eric, you had Wade Jr., Webb, and Belt.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all thought Webb.
I
And
was
he
all in
honestly, Webb really, come on.
Webb could have been there.
Yeah, he could have been on there. So I don't know why he wasn't, but anyway. Yeah, I know he's butthurt by that. And then special
Swing
awards,
and a miss. Wade Jr.
there's no special awards yet, but we're not getting them. Crawford Gold Glove. He's not going to win it this year. He had a good year, his solid year, but he's not going to win the Gold Glove. Belt, I also thought Gold Glove. Willie thought Crawford Gold Glove, and then Eric Crawford Gold Glove, and then Wade Jr. finishes in the top 10 of the MVP race. Hey,
Like the boy
sometimes,
can dream, okay?
sometimes you gotta dream big, baby, and take a shot in the dark.
Must have had a really good strain that week.
Yeah, what were you smoking, man? What
I don't know. That's some wow.
oh,
It's like some
that was
dark
fantastic.
Some of
Phoenix.
that late night.
That's
Yeah,
I had to be the loudest of louds to get me to think of that. My God.
So this is fun looking back on this stuff. It's like the mentality we were in and what we thought was going to happen. So that's a good one. Hey, look, I appreciate you going out on a limb, because we thought Lamont was going to have a good year anyway. But top 10 was definitely a stretch. But hey, you know what? What if he did? What if he did have one of those epic years? You never know. You would have been
Finished in top 1,000 in MVP voting.
right. Playoffs, we weren't that bad, guys. Playoffs, talking about playoffs. All of us thought NL West Dodgers. That was kind of a gimme. All three of us thought Milwaukee for the NL Central. Obviously, St. Louis won it, and Milwaukee missed the playoffs, so that was a little frustrating. They were in it there to the end. All three of us picked Atlanta in the East, so we were 2 out of 3 for the National League Division winners. The wild card, we both got 2 out of 3, or all three of us got 2 out of 3. I went with the Giants, the Padres, and the Mets. Willie went with the Giants, the Padres, and the Mets, and Eric went with the Giants, the Padres, and the Phillies. So Eric was the only one to pick Philadelphia. That was a shocker to me. I would have never thought that, and look what happened. So, and they went through a couple managers. What, 2 managers this year, I guess, or 3?
Yeah, well, actually, there's just 2. 3 of these were playoff teams have got managers fired mid-season. It's really kind of weird.
Yeah, really kind of bizarre. AL West, me and Willie went with Houston, got that. Eric went with the Angels. Another Lamont Wade.
I want to see
Wade
Trout
pick.
in the playoffs. Come on.
Shohei, man, like his offensive and pitching season this year were top 5 in both. I just can't even stop gushing about that dude. He is just unreal. unreal. So if he didn't play on the Angels, he'd be absolutely the MVP.
Yeah,
but
poor
now,
guy. Poor guy's got to play on the friggin' Angels.
I know. Well, we'll see where he ends up next year if he gets out of that thing. We all picked the White Sox for the Central.
Million.
What's that?
He signed for $30 million next year with the Angels. Then he'll be a free agent.
Oh, so one more year? Oh, that they were talking about trading him, but I don't think Angels are going to trade him. So he's too.
Nope, $30 million for 1 year. Then he'll be able to be free.
They get more than $30 million in marketing from him. Like he is just he's everywhere, right? He's everywhere.
He's going to go to Seattle or the Giants.
Yeah,
but that's next year's podcast.
All three of us went with the White Sox. That was a big strikeout. AL East, all three of us went with the Blue Jays. They ended up making the playoffs, just didn't win the West, or the East, I should say. Wild card didn't turn out so well for us. I went with Tampa Bay, Boston, and New York. So I got Tampa Bay. New York ended up winning the East, so kind of flipped those guys. Willie went with the Red Sox, the Twins, and the Yankees. Again, Yankees won the East. And then Eric, you went with the Red Sox, the Twins, and the Astros. So didn't do as well in the American League. I guess that shows you that we are NL boys, right? we like the National League, so tend to have a pulse. Know the pulse of the National League a little bit better than the American League. So that brings us to kind of wrapping up the show here. We got Major League Baseball playoffs starting today. I did make my picks before the game this morning, but Cleveland did beat Tampa Bay in Game 1. Right now it's Philadelphia and St. Louis. They're tied scoreless in the 5th right now. But let's kind of break this down a little bit. I'll go ahead and start off. Wild card. So I went with Tampa Bay. Boy, I'm already in the hole on that one. Tampa Bay and Toronto in the American League, and then St. Louis and San Diego in the National League. For the division series, I think it's going to be New York and Houston, the top seeds taking it, and then the top seeds in the NL. I know that's boring, but I really do think, LA and Atlanta are going to take it. And then for the championship series, I think it's going to be Astros and Dodgers in the World Series. Like, literally, if it's Astros or Yankees versus Dodgers, that's like my worst World Series. Like, my most hated, pathetic, I don't want to watch World Series. And then, the best team in baseball right now, unfortunately, I do think that the Dodgers are somehow, after winning 10 out of the last 11 NL West divisions and only winning the Mickey Mouse ring in 2020, I think they're actually going to pull it off on a regular season this year. But hopefully not. Hopefully the Braves or someone else will take them out. So, what about you, Eric?
I'll go with mine. All right, I also took Tampa in that series, so I'm also in the hole there. I could have changed, but I didn't want to do it. I've been on like 8 different platforms the last 3 days, and I said none of my picks are locked in until I make them here on TortureCast. So these are my official picks to hold myself to. Tampa over Cleveland, so they got to win 2 straight now. I've taken the Blue Jays. I am a Blue Jays fan, period. Really good buddy is a Blue Jay fan, and I'm Sergio, who's watching still, maybe is a Blue Jay fan. So for people I know, I'm rooting for the Blue Jays. I think the Phillies will sneak past the Cardinals. I just think that their bats can do things, and their pitching is, dominant at times. And I think the Mets take out the Padres. I don't think the Padres are good enough. If Tatis was around, that'd be a much better series. Yeah, but I don't see it happening. And then I'll take Dodgers over the Mets. I think the Dodgers over the Mets. I'll get into what I think of the Dodgers at the end. Dodgers over Mets, Braves over Phillies. I think, I'll take Braves over Phillies. Phillies could surprise us, though. That could be a good series. I think the Yankees will beat the Rays, and I think the Astros will beat the Jays. So like you, I have the top 4 moving on. Yeah. And I predict a Dodger-Astro World Series with the Dodgers coming out on top. And I think the Dodgers kick ass in this postseason. I don't think any series they have goes the distance. I think they're going to win this title pretty much running away. It's just going to be one of those years where one team just runs the table really well. And I think this is it. I think this is their best chance.
111 wins, guys. That's insane. It's like
I'm gonna be rooting for Houston at times. It's not that I've gotten over the cheating thing, but it's a different set of people trying to accomplish things right now. And what the hell was that? So I'm going with. So I want to root for Dusty. I mean, Dusty had his second 100-win season this year.
Yeah.
He hadn't had a 100-win season since the 1993 season. So it'd be awesome to see Dusty get a ring. So obviously I'm going to be rooting for Houston after the Blue Jays, but I think the Dodgers just win it all. I think they really run through it.
What about you, Willie?
So let's see. Tampa Bay, Blue Jays, St. Louis, Mets is my wild card predictions. And then Yankees, Houston, Braves, Dodgers.
Wow.
And then
We
Braves and Houston is the World Series. And Houston wins.
So Houston and Atlanta, cool. And
Well, that was last year's World Series. So
you think the Braves will win?
Houston's going to get revenge this time.
No, Houston wins.
Is better.
Oh, Houston wins.
Their hitting is better, even though they lost Correa and other stuff. But
yeah,
they're better. They're just better. They're crazy good.
Give me your wild card again.
Houston recently, but it's ridiculous. Like the LA obviously is everyone's favorite, but
yeah,
I think Houston is stacked up to beat it just about anybody. And the Braves, I think, are going to surprise some people in the Dodgers series.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, Toronto. Who'd you have in the National League? In the wild card
National
round?
League?
Yeah, for wild card.
St. Louis and the Mets.
Okay, I'm just writing it down. Cool. Yeah, no, look, baseball playoffs and playoffs overall hardly ever go with seeding, right? Like seeding is not always how it ends up. So we know there's going to be some shakeups. There's going to be some upsets.
Well,
it's going to happen.
We've also never had this playoff format before.
Very true.
How exciting is this to have these 2 out of 3 series? We got 4 games today, 4 games tomorrow. I mean, like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't have anything to do today or tomorrow, so I'm kind of a pig in shit.
I got it on right now. I'm watching all day.
Yeah. I'm watching Schwarber up at the bat. I'm rooting for the Phillies in this respect because it's been 11 years since they've been. There's some good storylines. It's nice to I love the Giants, and I always want to see the Giants win. But having a no-stress playoffs right now, I don't kind of mind it. It just happens to be where I'm at, maybe with life. But, it's nice to have one you can just sit back, relax, and watch a little bit.
I would rather have the Giants in it. Of course, we all would. But I agree with you to the sense of I turn into a complete stress ball when the Giants are in the postseason. And my family hates me. So this is kind of like a more like, okay, this team won. Whatever. That's cool. Yep. Wait to the end. When the Dodgers win it, then I won't be happy again. But yeah, it's fun just watching baseball without too much of a vested interest in it. So cool, man. Well, I think the autopsy is complete. The scalpels are bloody. We're taking off the gloves. We're kind of thinking about what we did to the body, but hopefully Farhan will get a power cell replacement, a bullpen replacement, and we'll put this Frankenstein ball club back together next year for 2023 and have another run at it. Because again, 6 or 7 games was a difference this year, and that's just 1 win a month. If they can improve on 1 win every month next year, they'll be in the postseason. And then really, when you break it down like that, it's not that much of an ask. It's not. And little changes here and there are going to make that. So make that possible. All right, well, that's going to do it for episode. Yeah, you got something?
It's way better than 2017. It's way better than 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, we really were disappointed this year, but that was only because of the results of 2021.
Yeah.
Had we been able to
unrealistic. Let's be
exactly. Had we been able to assess the team in a realistic way coming into the season, I think we would have foresaw this a lot better than we did. So I think that's what gives us hope for next year. I mean, we got a lot to see what's coming up. I really feel like letting Tommy LaStella go would go a long way to showing the fans that they're committed to trying to change this.
Yeah. Well, Farhan and the owners, because they got to allow the checkbook to be open. A lot of pressures on them, and they really know it. And I know that Farhan had his postseason press conference right at 11 o'clock. I had the link to join the Zoom, but we had already planned this. But I am definitely, and I know you've been keeping touch on Twitter there, Eric, but I definitely want to go digest some of what he said and kind of go forward there. But we know that a lot of pressure's on it. He knows it. This was his 4th full season as the helm, and this is not the time to rebuild. I mean, this is getting to the point where we got to start seeing results. And I know the results last year were earlier than thought, but then as it turns out, maybe it was just a mirage, a flash in the pan, because nothing was sustainable from last year. So gotta rebuild to a certain extent. All right, well, that'll do it for episode 266 We're probably going to be off for probably a week or two. We'll talk and let you know on social media whenever we get into the off season. We don't record as frequently, but of course we got playoffs going on. And if anything significant happens on the Giants front, not with moves, they can't happen until the end of the World Series, but other things may be happening. In the meantime, for Willie and for Eric, this is Chad King. You can also follow us on social media at TortureCast on Twitter, on Facebook, like us where we stream this podcast every time. You can also check out everything at torturecast.com and get your podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So that'll do it for us. Willie, what do you got going on? Anything you want to mention?
Not really. I have streamed a little bit recently, so twitch.tv/WillieDills, and got my setup going again. But mostly, just working hard on getting the MJ World Championship in order.
Oh yeah,
we're getting closer and closer every day. The thing is about a month out now, and it's crunch time.
Yeah,
it's time to squeeze the butt cheeks and get.
Still think it should have been 420 players, but whatever.
Right? I mean, it's the number.
It's because of how many players you could fit on a golf course.
I know.
For a shotgun start, it's not. They're foursomes, but that would be funny.
Yeah.
Limit it to 420 exactly next time. I think it might end up actually being closer to that number though, because we have a waiting list that's kind of filling up, but it's never gonna be perfect. I think there's gonna be a couple of missing spots. So
sure,
I'll hit you guys to the final number.
That'd be cool. And Eric, funny. I know that you were just on yesterday with Giants Chatter doing the autopsy there. What else are you doing?
We'll probably pop in between series and do some live streams over there. So after the wild card round, if you want to hear our take on, I don't know, it'll be rotating crew, but I know at least me and Brooks and probably, we'll see if we can get Doug on one of them. Rob, just the crew over at Giants Chatter, go see them. And, there's a lot less to write about. So I got nothing really. I'm going to start writing about the postseason soon, but I already miss doing game recaps. Those are fun to do. So I got nothing to really, really, truly promote at this moment. I'm just happy to be chilling and watching baseball. It was good to do another season with you guys. It's good to be a TortureCast, be a big part of this for another season. I really, I'm jealous that you guys get to go a little more than me, but that's on me to get out to you more often. But I'm glad to be a part of this, and I'm glad I'm on the show for just yet another season. I really appreciate you guys. So just want to say that at the end. Thanks.
Yeah, season 12 is kind of wrapping up here. That's season. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of time that this show's been in existence, Willie. Could you have imagined that when you started this back in 2011?
No. Me, Mike, and Ben.
Yeah.
The show is quite different now, and we've come a long way, and it's fun to kind of see each season progress and grow and change, and the podcast evolves the same way that the game of baseball does,
That's right.
Very cool.
So, and I'm sure, we're going to change over the next year as well. Things keep evolving, but yeah, any comments, suggestions, send them in to torturecast@gmail.com. We're always looking for any kind of feedback regarding that, or if you have segments to send in or anything you just want to talk about, we can do that. And maybe we'll think about opening it up to phone calls and, call-in show kind of format for parts of shows next year. We'll see. We'll hash it out in the off season. But until then, have a great time watching the playoffs. We'll see you in a week or two. Have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.